and welcome to my channel, JHN Creations. My name is JHN and in this video I'll be doing my best to show you guys how I sculpted the 2019 version of Joker played by the actor Joaquin Phoenix. So I started by sculpting the face by using a mixture of Duplicate clay and Super Sculpey, both in the shade Beige. I did this just so it's easier to knead the clay since Super Sculpey is much softer than the other clay that I have. Once it's all mixed together, I then rolled out a ball of clay and created the rough shape of Joker's face. Then I added some initial indents for his facial features. Next thing I did was I marked out where the eyes, nose, and mouth will be. Then I just hollowed out the eye sockets even more to make room for the eyeballs later on. I then took a small amount of clay and started shaping the tip of the nose before placing it onto the face. When you feel that the nose shape is good enough, then go ahead and add it onto the face and start blending it in. After that, you can start to add the nostrils and just look back and forth to your reference images to ensure that the nose is close to the look that you're going for. Next step is to add the upper lip by shaping a small amount of clay into a concave and blending it onto the face, then add in the cupid's bow. At this point, the sides of the mouth looks a bit thin to me, so I just added some clay to the parts that needed to be filled in. Once you're happy with how the upper lip look, then you can go ahead and start adding the lower lip by just using a small snake of clay, then blending it to the correct shape of the lower lip. After that, you can define the lines of the outer corners of the lips following the line that divides the upper and lower lip. At this point, you can add more clay to the chin area, making sure to look at it from the sides to see if it's accurate and close to the actual shape. When you're done with all of that, it's now time to do the eyes. This is a part that I always dread because I find it very challenging, but I'm very pleased with how it turned out, and I'm so relieved that I didn't mess it up. So as you can see, I just made the eyeball by rolling out white clay and placing it onto where the eyes will be. Again, just look at the face from all angles to see if everything looks good and if the eyes are evenly placed. You can find that it's best to do this by sculpting onto a material like the one I'm using, because with this I can easily lift up the face and rotate it at different angles to check the accuracy of the details. The one I'm using is just made of resin that I created from a small rectangular silicone mold, and I did this specifically for the purpose of using it to sculpt faces on. You can use anything else that can function as this, such as the metal lid from glass bottles or anything small with a flat surface. Now before adding the eyelids and everything, I added a lump of clay onto the forehead because it needed to be a bit thicker than it was. After that, you can go ahead and start by adding some lines as wrinkles, but you can definitely do that part in the end. Before adding the eyelids, I just filled in the eye sockets a bit more so that the upper eye area isn't too hollow. Then I just rolled out a super thin snake of clay for the eyelids. When you place it onto the eye, be sure to check the shape from your reference image. Don't forget to always adjust the details as you go. Next step is to add the brows, and since the face will be painted later on, I decided to stick with beige clay for the brows. After blending it in, just add the texture for the hair and do the same for the other side. Upon observing the reference images of Joaquin Phoenix, I noticed a kind of scar beside his cupid's bow, and I discovered through research that it's actually called a microformed cleft. It's a small detail that probably wouldn't be noticeable in the end, but I still decided to include it. Since the major features has been added to the face, you can go ahead and adjust any part as you see fit. Like here, I'm just adding a super tiny clay onto the nostrils. Once you're happy with how it looks, you can use a toothbrush or something similar to create the texture of the skin. Then you can proceed to adding the rest of the lines for the wrinkles, and feel free to add or remove some clay as needed to complete the look. Before baking, don't forget to create an indent at the back so that you can place some support later on. In my case, I'll be using a barbecue stick. Once the face is baked, place your stick onto the indent and mark it out onto the base that you'll be using for the bust to be displayed on. Then start sculpting the rest of the bust by filling in the back of the head with some clay, just enough to cover the stick, then add the neck and then finish off the back of the head with more clay. Onto the ears, which is also very challenging, but thankfully half of it will be covered by the hair, so you don't have to spend too much time on it. Just add some indents onto the ears and do the same thing on the other side. Now it's time to add the hair. For this, I mixed green and beige to get a lighter shade of green. Once that's all mixed in, begin by shaping the bottom of the hair like so. Then, create a tiny curly hair for the ends. This part is optional, but you can also put texture on the hair before curling it. After attaching that part, add texture to the hair by stroking lines in a downward or upward motion. Then just continue to build up the rest of the hair. For the inner shirt, I mixed teal and a bit of the green which I used for the hair. Then I used the tip of the pen to create circular textures onto the shirt. Sorry if this triggers anyone with trypophobia. Next, I mixed beige and yellow for the vest. For the suit jacket, I mixed beige, ruby, brown, orange, and red. Once that's done, finish off the hair by adding more curly clay onto the ends and make some finishing touches before finally baking the whole thing. Now it's time for painting. The colors I used will be listed down below along with a list of every tool I used for this project. For the hair, I used some watered down paint and then removed the excess. To paint the white for the majority of his face, I just used a sponge for a textured effect. Then I used a variety of small brushes for the rest of the painted details. For the base, I decided to cut a circular shape out of the wood since I think it would suit the bust better. Then I added some black clay to cover the wood. And you're done! Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully this was helpful. If you ever decide to create your own version, I would love to see it, so be sure to tag me when you post it. Until next time, bye!